afternoon. I am going to go ahead and get started. If you joined us just recently, if you would care to mind to put your name and your role and what district you're from in our chat box, just so we know who's joining us, we'd appreciate that. So today we are going to talk about collaborative practices to improve student outcomes. So we are excited that you're here and going to join us on this nice snowy afternoon. So I'm going to start out by just introducing our project success team. Our team, many of our team members are on the call today, this Zoom call today. So first like to start out by introducing our director, Meredith Keaty Merck, and then our project advisor, Amy Howie, myself, Heidi Brett Baker, Ashley Quick is one of our subject matter experts, and then our project manager is Mary Baker Badisa, and our project specialist is Christine Krieger. So those are the two ladies that our last two ladies I introduced are the ones that are our correspondents, and they do a lot of our communication and kind of keep us all together. So oftentimes you might hear from them before you would hear from one of us, but we all work as a team, and we're all great to be able to answer any questions that you might have. So if you're new to joining us, you might not have seen this slide before. If you have been to any of our Project Success training to know that we often show this slide. Project Success is a statewide resource center that is funded by the Indiana Department of Education to support education of students with significant intellectual disabilities. We provide professional development at a no cost to districts across a variety of topics. In a number of formats, as you can see here. Certainly this year, our formats have all been virtual, but we do, when it's a normal year, I guess, do on-site professional development. We held summer institutes. We do webinars, state, national conventions, and we also provide a lot of online resources, and those have been very helpful since this year during this COVID time. Also, you can see just how many districts that we have supported. And because of this virtual time that we spent for this last year, we've had the opportunity to not only work with districts in Indiana, but we've worked with many districts throughout the US that have been able to participate in our virtual training. So it's kind of been one of the silver linings to COVID is that we've been able to reach more folks who are working with our students with significant disabilities. This slide just talks about that we are part of a larger unit. We are part of the Indiana Resource Network. Each of the centers within the network have a specialty area. Most of them are fully funded or partially funded by the Department of Education. And each resource center has its own niche, like I said, and if you wanted to ever investigate any of these centers, you could click right on this slide. Each one has a link to their resource center, as well as if you wanted to type in on the DOE website, IRN, and the list of our resource centers will pop up, and you'll be able to see what the resource center is all about. I'm going to go ahead and share, turn off mine as well, Meredith, just so we make sure, because I saw there was a connection issue.
Yeah, if just everyone that's on today, sorry to interrupt, but if you could just turn off your cameras today, sometimes our bandwidth gets a little bit slow, so feel free to turn off your camera and follow along as Heidi shares her screen.
Thank you. All right, and so here is our website. Our website is projectsuccessindiana.com. The important thing when you are, if you were Googling us, is to include that Indiana part. If not, you might find a website that doesn't lead to our resources or anything about Project Success on there. We're pretty proud of this website. We just recently updated it, and there's so much information and such a wealth of knowledge on the website for teachers and administrators and even parents to explore, to be able to have all kinds of templates and webinars and resources to work with students with significant disabilities. The key part for you to be thinking about to find things that might be interesting to you or helpful to you would be to go to the far right of our website and click on our resource tab. That will give you a down tab where you could either click on educator resources, administrator resources, or district resources, and that will give you a flow of what you might need as an administrator, as it might need as a teacher. Those are, we had this when we revised the website, we did that according to what the needs are of our users. Also under the events page is the many things that we have happening. Currently, this webinar is listed under there. If you go under Project Assessed 2021 webinars, it's for February 17th, then you can find this presentation as well as all the documentation that is available for our webinars. There's also all of our new paraprofessional webinars are listed on there, and you can register for those and any other events that are happening, like in the summer when we do our summer institutes or summer trainings, that would be listed there as well. So, this is a great resource. And once again, for today's information, if you wanted to go onto the website, you just go into the 2021 PS webinar series and then click on February 17th, and you can find the information for today. All right, so here's what we're going to do today. Here's what we hope to accomplish by the hour that we have today. We're going to talk a little bit and review our inclusive practice framework. If you had the opportunity to participate in that this summer, that's where we first began this conversation. It seems hard to believe that it's almost been a whole year, but it has. Then we're going to talk about high leverage practices in special education, particularly collaboration. We're going to talk about the characteristics and the strategies involved in collaboration. I'm going to provide for you a checklist and talk through that about assessing what your current practice is. And then we'll talk a little bit more about some instructional strategies that go along with collaboration. And then we'll also provide you a template for collaboration plans that you can go into that next step. What would be next step for you? So our objectives for today are to describe the importance of assessing current inclusive practices, select inclusive practices or strategies to implement into the classroom, to identify the necessary steps for effective collaboration, to understand the presented templates for the collaborative practices, and then to have a good start on, or to at least understand the template and be able to create a good collaborative plan for yourself and for your team. So let's start off with just by thinking about this quote. Collaboration is a process for setting collective priorities and infusing different perspectives. This certainly requires people to, when you think about this quote, requires people to commit to working together so that they're able to ultimately collaborate, and allows, when you do collaborate, we allow for many perspectives, many expertise, we utilize everybody's resources, and we use that as a shared accountability and a shared responsibility. And so these are some key words you're going to be hearing throughout today about what collaboration means and what it could be for you and for your district. So let's refresh if you've been with us through some of our inclusive practices, and if not, this will give you kind of an overview of what we did present last summer, and we've been really aligning all of our professional development in our webinars and our presentations this year to this inclusive practice framework that we've been talking about. So this slide just kind of gives you a one slide picture of all the resources that are available for building inclusive practice teams, or thinking about the Inclusive Practice Summer Institute that we did. These are live links in the presentation, but also you can go right to the website, our Project Success Indiana website, and you can go on our Summer Institute 2020 Summer Institute, and all these would be there for you. We started out by having an inclusive practice framework, which we'll talk about in just a moment. But then there's a toolbox in there. There's engagement guides to go along with every recording. There's a recording and a PowerPoint presentation for each one of our sessions. And then it has an engagement guide for your participants to go through. And then there's also 3 facilitator guides to go with those 3 sessions and those presentations. So if your school would want to go through this the Summer Institute series, you could do that right there and you could pull it up. Or if you needed us to help coach you through it or to work with you about that, you could contact one of us and we'd be glad to sit down and kind of help you set out a plan of how to be able to provide this PD for your staff. So this is what the inclusive practice framework looks like. So when you think about implementing this practice, it really helps you to begin to look in your classroom or in your school to see where you're at, to look where you need to maybe expand, where you need to start, where you might need to structure and spend some time on that piece of the framework. But the framework does give you a step-by-step way to begin thinking about inclusive practices or to review or revisit that. We start by establishing the need for change. And once that has been established, once you've had that mindset shift and there is a need, there is a recognition that there is a need for change, we move on to gathering a group of people, gathering a team that is committed to the journey of inclusive practice. And then we begin by creating, once that team is formed, a vision for what you would like to happen in your building or in your classroom or in a couple of your classrooms if it's just a small group of you to start with. And you build that vision and then you create a plan, share that vision. And once that's done, you begin to take action. While taking action and really trying to implement the strategies and the plan that you have created, you really start small, think big, dream the world, and think largely, but you want to really start small. And as you start small, you want to secure those wins, because we know that when we secure wins and we gain momentum, and we hopefully that encourages others to gather along and to come along in the process. Along the way, it's really important to stop and think, to celebrate those wins and to think about, reflect on them and see how beneficial they've been. It's also important to analyze and reflect on the action that you've taken, see what has gone well, what has been a challenge, what never happened yet, and maybe you have to restructure that plan. But once you've done that, then along the way, you're going to continue to have those small wins and know that it's a journey and it's going to take a while. But once you do that, it will become the norm. And the norm will be inclusive practices in your school, and others will get on board, and it will be good practicing in your building. So I wanted to share that with you, and Meredith has put in the chat box our inclusive practice framework, and it would link right to the resources that we have available for inclusive practices. Another quote, I think this is a great quote to be thinking about, because research tells us that when teachers are able to work together to diagnose what they need to do and are able to plan and create successful interventions, that this then allows for us to have better student achievement. The effect size on student achievement is stronger, and more positive outcomes happen for students. So we know that collaboration works, and that it is an effective tool for teachers to be planning for students. All right, we're going to take a look at the high leverage practices in special ed. This was a partnership between the Collaboration for Effective Educator Development, Accountability and Reform, and the Council for Exceptional Children. The creation of higher level practices in education. The practices are for special educators, and they are They are the practices that, I'm sorry, I'm having a technical moment there. These are a set of practices that fundamentally support student learning, and that they can be taught and learned and implemented by special education professionals or any professionals. There are 4 aspects to the high leverage practices, and in those 4 aspects of collaboration, assessment, social, emotional, behavioral practices, and instruction, there are 22 things to address. There's 22 critical practices that have been highlighted, and we are going to talk about the collaboration ones. If you Google the HLPs, or the higher leverage practice in special education, there's all kinds of resources. There's some videos, there's these guides, there's many resources to guide you along the way. But in collaboration, we are thinking about, it's definitely a high leverage practice, because they believe that, or we believe that collaboration is a mechanism that assists all of us in designing and delivering and evaluating programs for students. It's a way for us to make sure that we are providing high expectations and rigorous instruction for our students. So in collaboration, there's 3 main practices that are highlighted for collaboration. The first one is collaboration with professionals to increase student success. The second one is organize and facilitate effective meetings with professionals and families. And the third is collaborate with families to support student learning and secure needed services. I'm going to talk a bit about each one of these. So that first one being to collaborate with professionals to increase student success. We know that research tells us that communication skills are the key building blocks for collaboration. We know that when gen ed teachers, paraprofessionals, and support staff collaborate all together, that it produces higher success rates for our students. We know that we can support collaboration amongst measurable outcomes. We know that we can effectively work together and share multiple ideas and resources. And when we do that, it produces positive outcomes. When we are collaborating with each other, it's important to use effective collaboration behaviors. And we'll be talking about this a little bit further into the presentation. But that might include sharing ideas, active listening, questioning, planning, problem solving, negotiating, and developing, and adjusting to their instructional and behavior plans based upon the data from students. All right, our second high-level practice that we're going to talk about under collaboration is organize and facilitate effective meetings with professionals and families. We know that teachers, when they participate in a purposeful meeting that has clear, measurable outcomes for students, and we're talking about students, and we're looking at data, and we're analyzing data, that that is definitely a good practice for students, and it benefits our students. Along the way, they tell us that teachers need to develop a set meeting agenda. They need to allocate time in the agenda, set goals for the agenda, and make sure that you're following that. We know that nobody wants to go to a meeting unless we have it's set and we're going to accomplish something, right? We don't want to just go to meetings, especially during this crazy time of Zoom, with all the Zoom fatigue there is. We want to be able to adhere to an agenda, follow that time, make sure that we start on time, end on time, and make sure everybody has a voice. And that's that positive verbal and nonverbal communication. We want to make sure that I know many of us are multitasking when we're having a meeting, but we still want to be attentive, and you want to make sure that you're sharing and participating in the meeting, and make sure that you're practicing good communication skills. And then our last one is collaborating with families to support the student learning and secure needed services. What a time we have now, right? That when we are working virtually with so many students, we've always had to have great collaboration with parents, but I think right now it's just such an essential needed practice for us, because many of our families are struggling, right? They have many students virtually learning or are struggling to learn. And so having that great collaboration with families works well. So having respectful communication to them, trying to be aware of their needs and what they want. So having a good collaboration and communication plan with your families is important. Also, it's important for us to advocate resources for our students so that our students can be successful, so that they can get what they need. This is just a quote about our higher level practices, and I'm just going to let you read that just a second. Just another quote that tells us how important collaboration is so that we can maximize student learning. All right, I've talked for quite some time now. It's time for us to share out, and I'd love for you either to unmute yourself or you could just share in the chat box. But I want to know which collaboration higher level practice do you feel you do best in your school, or what, or maybe if not just your whole school, maybe in your classroom. And then what would you feel like you might need some more additional support with? So what's something that you feel is going well in collaboration? Or in particular, maybe there's a need. Do you have a need for collaboration? One of these key practices that we're talking about. We have a quiet group today. That's great. Kelly brought up a good point. Collaborating with paras, that's something that's going well. She has 6, so working with that many paras, it could be a challenge at times. Greg says collaboration with professionals seems to be the norm, but when you work with families, sometimes you need to put a little bit of extra effort in. Yeah, I think that's true. I think when we did some of our virtual training at the very beginning of COVID, we did spend a webinar and we really talked about the importance of having a communication plan with families, because sometimes it's difficult, right, to meet them sometimes we just have to meet them where they're at, and we have to figure out how we can best work with them, because we all know, right, to partner with parents is the most effective and the most promising way for our students. So one of our participants says that she personally does well with meetings, but she feels like her district needs to work on collaboration with families. Yeah. Sometimes it's that communication piece, right? That the communication, those strategies might just need to be tweaked a little, right? They might need to be really thought out intentionally so that we can have better communication with our families. All right, well, thanks for sharing. We're going to go ahead and continue on. So we're going to talk about collaboration. So collaboration is voluntary. Participants should be able to decide whether they want to collaborate or not. Collaboration should be based on a parity, and that we all should believe that everybody's equal, right? Everybody should have a say. Everybody's opinion should be valued. Collaboration requires a shared goal. Collaboration is most effective when we can agree upon and we can share the same goal. I think it's important when we think about collaboration that we realize that it's a shared responsibility that for decision making and accountability for outcomes. So it's important to have a consensus when we need to make decisions. And then once decisions are made, we all need to be accountable for those outcomes. I think also collaboration is based on shared resources, right? So if everybody's accountable, then everybody should be accountable to share resources, and they should all be accountable to working towards that outcome, working towards those goals. Definitely collaboration is emergent. It emerges as you build trust, as you build relationships, and as you grow as a team or as a group. It kind of morphs over time. And last, on this slide, collaboration requires frequent interaction. Some of those interactions can be face-to-face, some in today's times can be virtual, some can be through an email, but it does require an intention of interactions. So once we think about collaboration, we think about some building blocks that help build the foundation of collaboration for us. And when we build a team and we work on these building blocks, we work better collaboratively. So the foundation really is that shared belief. And then our next building block would be having procedures and norms. And then that last is communication. And that's the one you guys talked about in that kind of share out just a minute ago, is that oftentimes I think the disconnect, or where we need to put some more work in sometimes, is that communication piece. So let's talk about some communication strategies. So effective teams know that everybody has to participate, right? And that we should all agree upon the primary goals of the team. In an effective team, there's open communication. People are willing to share ideas and opinions and feelings. And they do that because there's trust with one another. So, we all know that we've all been on teams, or maybe being in a meeting where you didn't feel as comfortable because you hadn't built that relationship yet, or you hadn't built that trust yet. So you might not really want to share because you don't feel comfortable yet. But when you're on a true team, then you're really working towards collaboration. You're hoping that you have that shared mindset, and you can be trusted. The trust can be there, and so that you can openly share ideas and opinions. You have a premise and you have a commitment to working together, and that you're going to meet only when necessary. You're not going to have meetings when they're not necessary, and that you have set a communication plan. You're going to address goals, and you're going to maintain a functioning team, so that you have that commitment as well. And then the last one, leadership is shared by all team members. It's important that everybody has a role, and that everybody feels that they could lead in their expertise area, or in an area that they feel passionate about. So what does it look like? What does it look like when a team is effectively collaborating with each other? It looks like that we demonstrate communication skills, that ones that are, we're going to talk a little bit more about them, but ones where we know people are listening to each other, people are being polite, they are committed to valuing others' ideas and looking through their lens so that you can come to a consensus. They're demonstrating good listening skills by, when you're face to face, looking at your facial expressions, your body language, and knowing if your people are agreeing or not agreeing. We're using open-ended questioning so that we are encouraging everybody to participate and to share ideas. We're using statements that are accurate. and they are descriptive, and they're intentional rather than being vague or evaluative. Nobody wants to be evaluated for their opinion, right? You might want to ask questions about it so you can get more details, but you want to do it in a way where it communicates that you value their opinion and you want to know more about it. And then communication, we're carefully blending our skills to foster partnership amongst all professionals. When we are communicating, we're communicating with everybody. So I like how somebody talked about communicating with their paraprofessionals. So we're communicating with paraprofessionals, with our peer teachers, with our gen ed teachers, with our therapists, and with our administrators and families. And all, anybody that is going to be engaged with our students, we want to be able to be good communicators with them. I'll leave you a second to read this quote. So I think this is important to kind of lead into our first building block when we think about shared beliefs. We know that without shared beliefs, it's hard to get too far, right? And we know that the research tells us when we feel valued and validated and we have a shared belief, then we're going to have a much easier trajectory when we are trying to plan and implement strategies and goals for our students and for ourselves. So let's talk about that foundational piece, that shared belief. So what is a shared belief? These are these are great statements about shared beliefs. Hopefully you would have many of these when you're on a team working together, but not necessarily you have to have all of them, but they certainly would be the foundation, the building block. So shared beliefs could be one of the shared beliefs that we might need to have, what we do need to have, is all students have the potential to succeed. We need to have people who believe that, who have a endless relentlessness, that commitment to improve, that we all know that we can always, as good as we are, we always can get better. And we need people to believe that. We need to have an acknowledgement that it's everybody's effort. It's everybody on the team's effort to be responsible for all students, that all students matter to everyone, and that it's all of our responsibility. And we're all accountable for every student. We also need to have a belief and a mindset that what we do as teachers, as educators, matter, and that what we do, our actions, can be the key to enhancing student learning. It also can be the barrier or the block to student learning, so we need to be mindful of that. We need to be able to disagree on certain things, and be able to accept disagreements and do that professionally. But then we also need to be able to, as you work through those challenges, to be able to celebrate and openly discuss celebrations and be happy for others. We also need to have a respect and consideration for each person on the team. Everybody is valued and everybody has an idea, and everybody should be able to have a say in the goals and in the strategies that are put forth. All right, on to our next building block. Our next building block would be the procedures and the norms. How do we set up that collaboration and with good communication? So our norms of communication, we have a resource for you, and I'm going to share it. We have a resource for you that talks about some ideas when you're thinking about norms for collaboration. Some strategies that you might want to do when you are forming in a committee, when you form a committee, to be thinking about how to collaborate well. So that first one would be pause, pausing, being able to sit quietly and think a minute and respond and ask questions and allow time for others to respond as well. We all know that not everybody processes the same way, so this is an important important one. Paraphrasing. So we know that words matter, and so sometimes the way we say things or the way we understand things, if we would paraphrase a little bit more, it will be we'll be more understanding of others. Another one is posing questions. Being able to talk about different questions and explore and identify different perceptions and different assumptions people might have, and invite others to think about it, think about those as well as we're collaborating. Our fourth one is putting ideas on the table. So, you know, we've many times have been to meetings where we're using chart paper or some type of way that we can all see it, so that we are just throwing some ideas on there, and then we might do some more research on that. 5 kind of flows right into that, because when you are thinking about ideas and stuff like that, providing data. So when we are talking and collaborating together, we want to have the data to be able to work from, to be able to plan from, and to be able to explore and analyze, so that when we know where we need to improve or maybe change the way that things are happening. 6 is paying attention to self and others, making sure that you're present and that you are able to provide meaningful conversation and meaningful discussion, and being aware of others in the room or on the Zoom call. And then the last one is presuming positive intentions. We want to presume everybody has the right intentions when working with students, and hopefully that they, by us using positive speech and intentions, that will grow to be the norm for everybody. Okay. All right. So here's some examples of some norms. I have 3 slides that kind of just give an example of some norms that, you know, are might be typical that a school committee or a school team could use when setting up some norms for their collaboration. I think the key is to make sure they're specific of what the expectation is, and to keep them short. And I think the other thing is really important is to review them each time you meet at the beginning, so everybody's on the same page each time. So this is example 1. Here's example 2. And then you'll notice when you're reading these that these are the many things that we talked about, you know, everybody participating, being willing to experiment or listen to others' ideas, being respectful of each other, honoring time, having a set agenda. You'll see those in those. These are all ones that would help you facilitate a good collaboration meeting or a time together where you're working together. So those are some examples. So let's have a time for you guys to talk. So which one of these building blocks do you think you would need the most intentional support for collaboration moving forward? Would you guys need some more support in shared belief, or in procedures and norms, or communication? And so somebody has shared with us shared belief. And if you do identify something, what are some things that are missing? What are some things that you might need support with? Procedures and norms. Okay. So in shared belief, is it because you guys haven't had the conversation to sit down and everybody have the same mindset when you're moving forward? So that might be the foundational piece, right? For shared belief, to sit down and really put on the table what everybody believes, so that you can all be on the same page. Okay. Yeah, so that is a mindset that we need to be working towards, right? It's a journey. It's not a dash. And Rebecca is saying that her school seems to believe that general ed and special ed is separate. And unfortunately, that's an unfortunate mindset, because we do know that when we say a student is from X school district, that's who they are first, right? They're from X school district, and then secondly, they're a student who might need support. So that is a belief that needs to be shared. We assume we were on the same page in the district, but we never specifically stated those shared beliefs. So great. So that would be an important thing to maybe to have those listed somewhere, what those shared beliefs are. Greg says time is a premium that is hard for many to consistently come to these meetings prepared, not to mention on time. You're right, Greg. Time is definitely precious, and not much that we have time of now. And that's why it's so important. And I said it multiple times today that when we have a meeting, it needs to be that it's intentionally planned and it's for a specific reason, and that there is an agenda that is attached to it. And if there is some preparation that needs to be done, that make sure that we give our folks that are coming to the meeting time to prepare and get it in. We can't have an agenda set out the day before. Oftentimes now we need to set it out a couple of days before so we know what is necessary to prepare. And I think that setting that norm that we need to be there on time, that it will end on time, and that we are going to follow the agenda and be specific of the agenda. I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to either listen to the recording or listen to a webinar we did. I believe it was last spring. We really talked about that to honor the time limit of a meeting in the agenda, that you might have a rolling agenda so that if something you didn't get to that day, then it rolls on to the next meeting, that we just don't hold over, because time is such a precious gift right now. And so that might benefit you. So what you guys have shared, I really believe that if you had that shared beliefs at the beginning and you stated those beliefs, and then you set up the procedures and the norms, and they're revisited each time a meeting's held, that would be a good start for you. That would be some good foundational pieces that would help you guys be more effective in collaboration. Thanks for sharing. So the benefits of collaboration, I just listed 6. There's multiple benefits of collaboration, but there's 3 on this slide and 3 on the next slide. We know that one of the major benefits is that when teachers collaborate together, they're all a wealth of knowledge. And so when you can share all the ideas and the other activities and resources, that's going to just benefit students. So that helps expand our toolkits and helps us to be more consistent. Like at grade level, if you have grade level meetings and you can collaborate, we're delivering the same meaning, the same message to our students. And planning the same kind of instruction so that we're utilizing, all of us are utilizing UDL, all of us are using project-based learning, whatever we're collaborating about. But then once we all have the same shared belief and discuss it, that we are going to use that for students. 3 more benefits would be that when we talk about collaborating, when the more we collaborate, the more inclusive our schools become, and we're able to use more good teaching strategies because we're sharing them. And one in particular is UDL. And we know that when we utilize the principles of UDL, that just benefits all students. It doesn't just benefit students with special education, it benefits all students. The benefit of collaboration definitely increases our student efforts with our students. We have significantly higher expectations. The rigor is there. When we collaborate, we're able to do that and be able to have different ideas and different lessons that we are able to share. And then the last one, I think, is a huge important one, is that higher teacher responsibility occurs because we're accountable to each other, right? And we're going to promote student success, and we're going to be more diligent about finding ways that we can help our students and be more proactive. So what could you do with the power of collaboration if you had more collaboration, or maybe you have collaboration, but if you had more effective collaboration, what would that, how powerful would that be in your building or in your classroom? Yeah, a stronger shared vision and a mission would be fulfilled. Yeah. If you're committed to the mission and the vision, you would be able to um, definitely do more for kids. Kelly says that if they had power and collaboration, that she believes that more of her students could be participating in more inclusive practices, more inclusive activity opportunities. Heather says student success would definitely increase. Yeah. It's a great and definitely would be true. Thanks for sharing. So our last section for our webinar today would be talking about 3 parts. Taking action, so assessing our current practices, and then the next part would be reviewing our collaboration strategies, and then our last part would be to create a collaboration plan. So let's talk about assessing our current practices. So this is one of the resources that is on the on our website, listed under our webinar for today. It is a checklist, and it's just really to give you, it's really more for your thought to kind of assess and check off where you maybe think of you might be on more than one collaborative team, but to think on a team that you're on and to kind of run through this checklist to see where you're at. The first part talks about some of the things that we addressed in that shared belief part, right? Do you have a shared common belief? Do you can you guys agree upon meeting times? Are you willing to share feelings and insight? Are you willing to change and grow? Then it talks about roles and responsibility. Does everybody's roles and responsibilities clear? Do you are your expectations similar? Then the actual meeting, there's some checklist there about do you meet regularly, consistently? Are they face to face? Do you have a set agenda? Is somebody facilitating it? Are you guys willing to begin with celebrations and celebrate that all together? Are we keeping notes for? Is there somebody keeping on track of the meeting? Because, like I said, that time limit should be valued. And is there shared responsibility? Then we move on to team interactions. So many of those things that we talked about, having active listening, are we paying attention and not multitasking? Are we encouraging others? Are we demonstrating value to each other? Are we listening? Are we being willing to look through their lens and be able to talk about it? Are we developing plans and sticking to it? And is everybody being accountable? Is there open communication? We're not having negative communication, right? We're not criticizing. We're not criticizing people's ideas, but being positive and valuing others' opinions. And then if, at times it does happen, right? A team does have some conflicts. And so how is that being handled? And are we acting professional? Are we remaining calm? And those are some checked areas there too. This is from the Maryland Coalition for Inclusive Education. But I would encourage you, if you talked about that there was a couple of things that you thought needed to be changed, that you would kind of go through that checklist and see where you guys are at as a team and bring it up to your team and talk about that. And if you're at the share belief stage of the game, then I would have that conversation, and your team could come up with, some principles for your team and write those shared beliefs down and all agree upon them. If you're at the next stage where you are working on procedures and norms, then you would be talking about those and writing those down so that everybody's on the same page. And communication, it kind of falls all along in there, but I also think that your communication principles can be embedded right in your procedures and in your norms. So this is just a good exercise for you. It shouldn't take you very long to complete the checklist, but you can assess, and you and your teammates can assess where you're at. So some strategies to think about. So when you're thinking about writing those norms and those shared beliefs, be thinking about, make sure you're sharing your school's mission or vision. Make sure you're communicating your expectations for collaboration. In that you're going to be defining and communicating your team goals. That could be in your procedures and your norms. We certainly always want to focus on strengths, right? So we want to focus on our individual strengths in our team. We want to promote community amongst the team. So everybody has value, everybody is respected, everybody can share openly. And we want to foster that, right? We want to foster good, trustworthy relationships so that everybody feels comfortable to do that. So I think the 5 things are to encourage, to share, to lead, to invest, and to celebrate. So we want to encourage creativity amongst each other. We want to share all the knowledge and the insight that we all have. We want to lead each other by example. We want to invest in each other and in collaboration. And then last, as always, we always want to celebrate and celebrate all the wonderful work that can be done when we work collaboratively together. So when thinking of those strategies and thinking about the building blocks, let's go on to our last phase and that is creating a collaboration plan. So this is our other resource that we have in on the website as well. And this is a nice template where it talks about the characteristics of writing a good collaboration plan. And then the second column has great guiding questions about that characteristic. And you might just go through and answer the questions, or you can write your action of what you would like to accomplish under each one. So when you think about time to collaborate, when is the best time for everybody? Is it, before school, after school? Is it only through email? Who needs to collaborate? Is it by just grade level or content area? Those are some main questions. Is it who is the actual physical people that need to collaborate? Is it co-teachers, gen ed teacher and special ed teacher together? Do you need to collaborate with your paras? Who needs to be in this plan? Thinking about people's roles and responsibilities. Who will you have the same role each time you're in the meeting, or is that going to rotate? How is that going to be picked? Thinking about setting up protocols and norms, making sure that those are reviewed constantly and that they are set up ahead of time before we start the collaboration of a team. Have some goals together and be able to, and how you're going to set those goals up and where they're going to be recorded. And are they individual goals? Are they team goals? Are they grade level goals? When will you measure them? How will you measure them? And when will you be reflecting on them? And when you do have a reflection, when will you make a change? Talked about setting the norms. Do you have a facilitator for meetings? Will that make it run more efficiently? And are you going to rotate that facilitation? Thinking about questioning, how do you start questions and routines so that everybody will participate in the conversation? Make sure we're setting meeting objectives, creating agendas. Make sure that we're going to be following that agenda, and do you have a set agenda template that you want to use so that it's consistent, so that you can do it into a rolling agenda that I talked about before? Who's going to take notes? Who's going to communicate those notes out? Those are all great guiding questions for you when thinking about creating a collaboration plan. All right. All right. So how do you think you will share your collaboration plan? Who will you share it with? So if you think about writing a collaboration plan for you, who would you write the collaboration plan with for, and how will you share that out? Do you think there's a need for you to write a collaboration plan? Is there a team that's not working real well, or one that you'd like to work better? So you might want to create a plan for. Maybe you'll start by assessing um, what your current practice is, and then pick one of the building blocks. If you've made it through already your shared beliefs, then that you could start on your norms and your procedures. If not, start at shared beliefs. All right, we are about wrapping up here. We have about 2.5 minutes, and so I'd like to just give you a couple minutes for questions. Does anybody have any questions about collaboration or the higher leverage practices or anything? Meredith, our director's on. I'm here. We can answer any kind of questions that you might have. It's been a quiet group today. All right, if you don't have any questions, I'll stay on for a little bit of time here, but we'd love for you to fill out our session evaluation. We like to get feedback. We always want to make sure that we're being resourceful for you and that we are able to support you. So please fill out the feedback, and I thank you for joining me for today. And if you do have any questions come up, please email any of us. Our emails are on the website, and I think the next slide I have them too. Yeah, there you go. I have the next slide. Thank you for sharing that you're going to start out with your plan and talk about norms and procedures. I appreciate that.